Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, about 2 types of celebrities. The second story, after a horrible employer took advantage of an employee for 5 years, the employee got a new job. The horrible employer is forced to shut down his marketing. The third story, I quit jobs after my husband was wrongfully fired for a mistake made by the kitchen staff. The first story is Good Celebrity, Bad Celebrity. Prefacing that this happened back in 2001, and I always feel good reminiscing about this one, even if one of them was a brat. Being the closest hotel to a large convention center, and the most upscale of the ones in a couple block radius, when there were large events, the celebrities and performers tended to stay at our hotel. We were used to the obviously fake names showing up on reservations to protect their privacy. Old Hanna-Barbera cartoon characters were our head of sales choice. We'd not always get a heads up to who it actually was, and they generally wouldn't check themselves in. So we'd play a guessing game based on what was going on at the convention center as to who Wilma Flintstone, Top Cat, or Johnny Quest, etc. may be. This time it happened to be a touring group of former US Olympians doing performances. They were individuals who for many would still be easily recognizable by name, and definitely had celebrity status. Gretchen, the older German lady who was once of the other front desk staff, was what I would call a superfan of this sport. She knew all their stats, their signature pieces, everything about them. It was adorable how much she adored the sport and let out small, whispered squeals of delight anytime she thought she spotted someone part of the tour going through the lobby. This was a heavily managed group, so in general none of the tour came to the desk, or ate in the restaurant or went to the bar, etc. But there were 2 exceptions. I will call them by what their rooms were checked in under, Captain Caveman and Penelope Pitstop. The group was staying with us for 5 days. There were 3 performances, but also they had some private events around town. Not 30 minutes after the buses arrived from the airport and they were checked in did we first hear from Captain Caveman. Their parents had the room directly across the hall. They were livid that the parents did not have the adjoining room. And we were wholly confused to who we were actually speaking to, since we know the name isn't going to match the room, and they were using their actual name when speaking to us. It wasn't a big deal for us to know, but they were calling from a cell phone. How they got it to work back then in our hotel where signal sucked, I'll never know, and didn't know their room number. Took a game of charades to figure out he was in the presidential suite. We only have one of these giant suites in the hotel, and very few suites in general, so he could have led with that. Nowhere on the reservation did it request the adjoining room, just as close as possible. We explained the hotel had been sold out the night before, and so the adjoining room wasn't available, but they'd be checking out tomorrow and then would be happy to move their parents to the adjoining room. We got a curt fine and a hang-up. Captain Caveman is in his early 40s then, just in case you were wondering. Not sure why his parents, who we interacted with when we later moved their room, and they were polite and lovely and not need help elderly, needed to be in the adjoining room. We'd get a couple calls a day from Captain Caveman the entire time they stayed with us. Room service wasn't quick enough. Well, you ordered at 6 p.m. in the middle of the dinner rush, or why room service didn't have the very specific and something you'd never expect a restaurant to carry flavor of ice cream they wanted. I don't even remember the flavor, but I remember thinking who even carries the flavor in store. All in all, a grumpy guest who talked down to staff and at one point made one of the housekeeping girls cry because the sheets were not folded back and prepped for as they liked. Our housekeeping manager was on vacation at this time, because I loathed to think of what would have happened if even a celebrity guest made one of the employees cry while she was around. This was a huge, well-paying contract for the hotel, 6 figures, and Captain Caveman had a say in the contract, so we all just bit our tongues, even when they showed their face once at the desk one evening and made Vanessa, the assistant FD manager, break pencils under the counter, as she politely smiled and told him what she needed to get him to leave. In retrospect, they should have put the name on the room as Dick Dastardly. The tour schedule they had was hard. It was physical and it didn't include a lot of downtime. We didn't blame them for just coming in and straight to their rooms, ordering Ample's room service or sending some of the staff traveling with the group out for what they wanted. But one of the nights there was an exception. It was around 10:30 p.m. and the lobby was dead, when Penelope Pitstop's room called and asked if we had a toothbrush kit, as they, their words, clutched it somewhere I'm not going to clean. We said we'd send one right up, and they said they'd come down to collect it. A few minutes later, and trying to keep our jaws from dropping when we saw them, we knew it was Penelope Pitstop. She came up, made a little friendly small talk. Vanessa mentioned as she was about to leave that one of the other desk agents, Gretchen, was an over-the-top fan, and she'd be so upset that she wasn't working the desk this evening to meet her. She asked when she was working next, and we told her tomorrow evening. She smiled and left with her toothbrush kit. I worked with Gretchen the next evening. It was getting late, around 10:30 p.m. again, when I see Penelope Pitstop walking towards the desk again. Gretchen was at the station closest to the wall, which made it hard to see down the direction Penelope Pitstop was coming from, and she was focused on her book anyway. It was slow. I pointed Gretchen out to Penelope Pitstop while she was still a bit from a distance, and she came right up to Gretchen. OMG, when Gretchen looked up, it was like instant tears. I'm honestly in shock she didn't scream like a teenage girl at a 50s Beatle concert. Penelope Pitstop, smiling, introduced herself and told her that she was told Gretchen was a huge fan, and if she'd like to have a chat with some coffee for a bit. Restaurant was closed at that point, and I shooed a nearly hyperventilating Gretchen off to go sit with her, and called over to the bar, which was dead that night, save for the few clove-smoking regulars, to have them bring some coffee over to them, with a bit of an explanation. She spent half an hour chatting with Gretchen like they were old friends, and at the end pulled out a signed photo for her. We were not supposed to ask for things from celebs, but if they offered, it was okay to accept. Hey OP, I have to say, reading your story made me feel like I was watching a classic episode of Scooby-Doo. It had everything. The mystery of trying to figure out who the celebrities were, the surprise reveal of Captain Caveman and Penelope Pitstop, and of course the meddling celebrity causing chaos for the hotel staff. But the best part was definitely the toothbrush kit mishap. I can only imagine the look on your face when you saw Penelope Pitstop stroll into the lobby. It's funny how even celebrities have moments when they're just like the rest of us, forgetful and clumsy. I hope that encounter with Penelope Pitstop made up for the trouble that Captain Caveman caused. Thanks for sharing this hilarious throwback story with us. The second story is Sweet Sweet Victory. My husband has been self-employed in tech and scraping by for about 13 years. Over that time, he honed his skills and transitioned from graphic design to web dev to app dev and became extremely good at what he does. About 5 years ago, a popular local photographer that we knew socially was talking about starting a marketing and ad company locally. We live in a tourist destination in the US. Fast forward 6 months. My husband is a freelance employee of this man. Let's call him Coral, with plans to be a salaried partner within a year. Naturally, a year passes and no progress. No partnership, no salary. Still fighting to hunt money down. Then another year. Husband gets another job offer and is put on salary by Coral the next day. No partner that got pushed another year. At this point, husband knows he's on his way out the door, but at least has a monthly check in the meantime. Oh, he technically took a pay cut to go on salary just so we could have a predictable pay schedule. During this time, my husband is working 60 to 70 hours a week, in office, from home, on weekends, etc. Did I mention we have 4 kids? Coral does finally hire someone, Tiffany, to manage the financials and do admin stuff, but it turns out she's so good at her job, she reveals Coral is even worse at business than we thought. Turns out my husband was bringing in clients and turning out 85% of the billable work, while Coral and his wife were using company money like their personal ATM for their car, home decor, etc., all while claiming that they make the same money as the husband. Tiffany also shows that they use company funds to buy the office building, but put it in Coral's name personally, and he charges his company rent so he can collect more money and keep the equity personally. There's so much more, but this is already a novel. Suffice it to say, my husband was no longer interested in partner. Coincidentally, around that time, husband learned of a job opening at a company his friend worked for. All remote, Canada-based company. Good salary, benefits, and set work hours. They have a few job openings, actually. Husband applied and got hired very quickly. Of course, once he told Coral he got an offer, C started trying to grasp for carrots to dangle to keep husband. But thanks to Tiffany, it was clear none of it was financially possible. Oh, and the absolute cherry on top was the fact that Coral never made any contracts for employees or web clients. Photo clients signed contracts naturally. So the app that husband was working on that was going to be the big moneymaker for the company belongs to my husband. Yes, we have an IP lawyer, and the company that hired him literally gives employees 3 hours a week to work on personal projects during business hours. I didn't even mention the best part. The company in Canada that hired husband, in addition to better pay, hours, etc., got their B Corp certification, meaning they meet some pretty rigorous standards for environmental impacts, social justice, worker rights and protections, sustainability, etc. So my brilliant husband is finally being rewarded for 13 years of struggle with a 6-figure salary, full med, vision, dental insurance, set hours, 10 to 5 Monday through Friday with 3 hours Wednesday to work on personal projects, PTO, vacation, paternity leave, mental health days, 401k. There are more perks I'm not recalling. I can't believe we finally have some real financial security. Took us until we're almost 40, but better late than never. Coral is likely going to have to close his marketing biz after his cash cow stopped producing. It's awesome your husband finally got the sweet, sweet victory he deserved after all those years of struggling. And what a victory it is. Not only did he escape from Coral's grasp, but he also ended up with a 6-figure salary, benefits, and a B Corp certification. And let's not forget about the app that now belongs to him. It's like he hit the jackpot. Finally, you can say goodbye to scraping by and hello to financial security. And the last story is, my husband got fired and I quit with him. My husband and I work together, him as a bartender and me as a server. And the reason he got fired recently was because a table of 15 with no reservation turned into a table of 23. The owner's friend was at the bar. The table of 23, not the only table I had for an hour and a half. I had a 4-top and a couple at the same time. Got the food in 30 minutes before the person at the bar did. The other server had an 8-top, a 6-top, and the rest of the house that was there earlier. So it took an hour for the guy to get an appetizer. My husband went away for a break after making my drinks, stocking the bar and a few drags of a cigarette taking less than 5 minutes. About 30 minutes into this guy being there, he asked me before he left to watch for his food. I ran food for everyone and filled in when the hostess took breaks, and acted as an interim bartender. All of my own free will. 3 servers, 1 bartender, 1 host, 16 to 18 tables. So finally all the food for my table comes out after my hubby's break. Run his food, run food for 2 more tables. The kitchen can't really speak English. So we kept asking them where the order for the owner's friend was. Finally figure out that the kitchen lost the ticket. The owner's friend lost his mind, went to the kitchen, open and everything is in view of the customers, and grabbed a to-go order that wasn't his. By the way, the other server who was supposed to be our manager sat on her A and did nothing, so we only had 2 servers that night. My husband got fired by the owner's son's girlfriend who was promoted to a manager after 1 month because the kitchen didn't make his order. We both went back and asked multiple times, until I finally got fed up and went into the kitchen to check where the ticket was. The owner was caught in the bathroom with a guy by my husband. The son and his girlfriend got so drunk on the clock that they had to pin it on my husband. They said that he was drunk. He would do a sample pour. Half a sip he would spit out in front of cameras. Every 5 of the same drinks that he made to check for consistency, the equivalent of washing and rinsing your mouth with hydrogen peroxide. I quit because they blamed him for the kitchen's mistake. They lost the only 2 people working there who could actually talk to the kitchen and get them to listen. Example, it's been many years for everyone working in the server and kitchen staff, but I had to explain to the kitchen what an allergy was, and watch the kitchen every single step of the way to make sure they didn't cook the beef off the same grill as the fish. The server who was actually working that day with us also quit, because we were the only 2 people that actually helped everyone. The kitchen staff actually loved us because we understood them. I've worked as a server, a host, a busser, an expo, a dishwasher. My husband has worked as a line cook, prep cook, bartender, server, and everything that I also did. Just don't try to put 15 people in a very small restaurant, then change to 23, then demand your food orders 15 minutes after, or your drinks 5 minutes after. Don't get upset if it doesn't come out in time. So someone got fired and someone decided to quit with them. That's what I call relationship goals. Who needs a job anyway when you have love and loyalty, am I right? But seriously, that sounds like a tough situation to be in, especially with a language barrier in the kitchen. Maybe it's time to find a new place to work where the owner isn't caught in compromising situations, and the managers actually do their job. Subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications.